What's good, YouTube? Nobody here. Welcome back for episode 15 of the beginner's guide for space engineers. So in the last episode, we went into creative mode and built our first large ship. In this episode, we need to get this printed off and start heading towards the moon. The ship we built was capable of going pretty much anywhere that you want to in the game. So after getting this printed off, we need to get it fueled up just enough at least to get to the moon and start a little forward base there. We're probably going to put this out in orbit of the moon, so we've got to create a small miner that goes inside of here, as well as get it fueled up. Basically, we need some hydrogen, we need some uranium ore and things like that. So that's what we're going to work on today, is getting to the moon. Also, sorry for not being around for a few weeks. I had to get a bunch of stuff straight at home in the office. I basically rearranged the entire office and got everything set up with my recording software and with my editing software and everything, to where I can put out a lot more videos a lot easier. So expect me to be playing a few more games. I'm going to continue, obviously, my Space Engineers playthrough, but I don't want to play the same game all the time because that'll probably burn me out on Space Engineers. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pick up a bunch of extra games and start some Let's Plays on those as well. They're going to be building based games. The entire channel is going to be based off of building games. So if there's any specific building based game that you guys want to see in the future, let me know. Because once we finish off each individual Let's Play that we're doing, we're going to have to start looking for new games. If there's anything that you want to see me cover and learn and basically do tutorials and stuff for specifically, let me know as well. We're going to be doing, currently we're going to do The Sims 7 Days to Die, not this week but next week. The reason for that is 7 Days to Die is about to hit Alpha 8.19 and everything's changing. So I didn't want to do one episode and then have to restart everything. We're going to be doing Empyrean Galactic Survival, which The Sims and Empyrean Galactic Survival will be released before this video goes live. So they're already up on the channel if you want to check them out. We're also going to be doing City Skylines, No Man's Sky, Factorio, and another game called Factory Town. Factorio is coming up with their 1.0 release soon, so I want to get into that as well. And if there's any other games that you guys think that you might want to see on the channel, let me know, like I said, and I'll probably go ahead and pick those up on when I get paid, so we can get a couple extra games in on the rotation as well. Okay, so before we can go to the moon, we got to print off the ship from the last episode. So what I've done to do that is basically just set up a rudimentary printer here. It's got a bunch of pistons and going forward and a bunch of pistons going up, and I just made sure that the block of the area that the pistons would move would fill up the entire ship area by using the projector here to project it out, and basically just built a little platform out here to touch into it and added 4 timer blocks here. I'm going to show you how to set up the timer blocks for the pistons and everything, and talk to you about what you need your timers and stuff to be if you want to print something large like this. But the number one thing that I did to make this work better was I put a couple blocks down with the welders here. The problem is the welders actually weld in a sphere. So what's going to happen is, if you try to print this off like it was without these here, it's going to try to print these blocks down here, and they're going to get in the way whenever you want to come forward. So what you do is you block those off, and it won't print anything that's blocked off. So if you go 2 forward like I did here, or 1 forward from the welder here, you'll actually block it off as you go. So when you back these pistons up, this spot right here is blocked off so it doesn't print, but these 2 blocks up here will print. So basically you're creating a layer by layer print instead of doing it like we were doing it before. This will allow you pretty much to print anything that you want off. As long as your print bed's big enough, you can print anything that you want and not have to worry about going back and finishing it off later. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to set up the timer, or how I have the timer set up here. And I'm gonna use the keyboard for this because there's a lot of work to be done in this. But the way I set the timer up here was, I just basically, this number 9 here is just a timer block to get everything started. So that timer block is set up, sorry I had to get my notes here, I've got it all written out for you. That timer block, basically all it does is turns off the Pistons Up group, which is the group that goes up and down. It retracts the Pistons Up group, which basically means that it'll pull it downward, so however you want to set that up. And then it'll trigger the next timer. The next timer was timer 5 here. I actually had to play deleting some timers, but this was actually a pain to set up, by the way. It's a good thing I got all my notes here for you. And I set timer 5 up for 180 seconds because we're going to go 10 meters per, each of the pistons are going to go 10 meters forward. So the timer that you want to set up, you got to think about the physics equation D equals RT, where D equals distance. So the distance equals the rate times the time. In order to find out how long you need to delay here, what you'll want to do is you'll want to take your, because we're going the entire distance of the piston bed, so we're going all the way forward and all the way back. The number of pistons doesn't matter at that point because we just want to make sure each one of the pistons retract. And if they're all moving at the same speed, all you'll have to do to figure that out is going to be divide the distance that you're traveling with the pistons. So if you set up a special distance or whatever, which I've got 10, it doesn't really matter, and then divide that by your rate. So your rate's going to be whatever you set your speed for your pistons up for. And I recommend very, 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 very slowly. The slower the better. I've got it set up here for 0.05 meters per second. I would recommend, if you have a lot of pistons there, go even slower. The slower the better, because that way you've got time to make sure everything gets printed off. I'm actually printing this, and due to time constraints with making the video and everything, I'm actually printing this just to make sure I can show you how to work it. I'm printing in creative mode. I basically enabled creative mode just to print this off, which shouldn't be too much of an issue. But if you're going to be doing it in regular mode without creative, make sure, the number one problem that you're going to have is if you don't have enough items made yet. So you're going to have to basically make sure you have everything queued up. Make sure that you're going to have every single item that you need to make your ship, because if you don't, then it's not going to print off and you're going to have to come back and print that by hand. But that's a major concern. Another major concern here is that you want to make sure that you have time to print everything. So the slower the better in this situation. Plus, that's how you get one of the ways that you get rid of your claim. You won't be flailing around if you're going slower either. So that's why I'm doing 0.05, which is plenty slow enough to keep it from flailing around here. But I don't know if that's going to be slow enough for you to print off everything if you've got everything queued up and basically sitting there and not doing it in creative mode. Creative mode prints almost instantly, where non-creative mode does not, or survival mode. So basically what's going to happen here is this is going to back up. It's going to turn on all of the welders and back up all the way until these pistons right here are fully retracted. And then it's going to drop down 2.5 meters, cut off the welders, drop down 2.5 meters, move all the way forward, and basically turn the welders back on, and then retract again. So basically we're printing off in a single layer at a time. And that gives us a little bit of leeway too for our print bed, because don't forget, it'll print one block above what's here. So that'll let us get anything that we might miss in the first place. So what we're going to do is show you the timer setup here and get that set up. So my first timer was the one that I said before. I'm going to be putting all of these all this timer information down in the description as well. So if you miss it here, you can always go down there and look. But for the timers, the way I have this set up is timer block 5 is going to be my first timer built into the thing. So what I've got set up here is 180 seconds to make sure that I've got time for it to fully retract and fully extend. And then my first thing that I do here is I have my welders turn on. And in the second spot here, I've got my pistons forward, or my entire group for pistons forward set to retract. Then it starts timer block 6. And timer block 6 also has 180 second delay. And the actions for that are going to be turning my pistons on, turning my pistons up block on, and then turning my welders off, and then starting timer block 7. Timer block 7 here has a 12 and a half second delay. Now this is important here. It's according to how many up and down pistons you have to what this number needs to be, because you don't want to go the entire distance of it. The numbers do matter. So in order to figure out how many seconds that you need here, you're going to have to use the distance equals rate times time calculation. I have 4 pistons and I want them to go 2.5 meters. Remember, the blocks are 2.5 meters by 2.5 meters. So what's going to happen here is I need to go 12.5 seconds. For you to figure that out, you need to know how many pistons you have, and then how far you want to go, so 2.5 meters there, and what your speed is. And I've got these set up to 0.05 as well. So the calculation for that would be, you would want to divide the distance that you want to go, so 2.5 divided by the number of pistons that you have times the rate that you are moving at. So that would be, in my case, that would be 4 times 0.05 is what you divide the distance by. That will give you the actual amount of time that it will take for those pistons to move that distance. So that's how I got 12.5. It was the distance was 2.5, and then I divided that by the quantity of 4 times 0.05, and that'll give you the exact amount of time it's going to take. So once you cut that, or once you set your delay here for this one, the actions for it are going to be, let me see, this is, you'll want to turn off the pistons up, extend pistons forward, and then start timer block 5, or your first timer block over again. So that creates basically an infinite loop. So what it's going to do is basically it's going to print the entire area. And I just made sure that I made as you see here, I've got a pretty wide printer array here. I guess printer head would be the correct term for it. This just makes sure that let me come in here and show you the projection real quick. All I'm doing there is making sure that the projection is fully covered. That way it'll print off every block on it. That's how wide you want to make it for the most part. So let's see, let me find the projector here. And I'm going to turn on show only, or turn off show only buildable. So I just basically made it wide enough to cover the entire ship on both sides. And that's all you really need to worry about there. So you just need to make sure that your print head's big enough to cover the entire area, or your print head's big enough to cover the width of the ship, and that your print bed would be large enough to cover the entire area. In fact, let me test something out here. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't fully printed. I've only printed a couple layers just to test, but I didn't think about the fact that it was set up like it is. So let me go ahead and retract all these pistons. I've got it set up here to where I can do that. I want to see how far this goes back real quick and just make sure that it's going to cover the entire thing. Okay, I had to move the entire thing forward by 1 here because it wasn't going to be the right distance here. So as you see, let's see, I'm going to remove these shortly, but I just needed to make sure that the welders came back a little bit further than this. So that way it would print off all the blocks, and we are good to get rid of those. And let me show you what's happening over here. I just moved the whole thing forward 1. Now, one thing that you have to think about here is the print head's only going to go so far here. So you're going to need to make sure or it can't print through blocks. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got basically like little supports here for anything that sticks out of the front. Just basically you want to touch the front area there just a little bit, just one block touching, that way it prints it off as it goes. Otherwise you're going to have to print those by hand as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get this printed off for you guys, and I will get back with you when that's done. Also, one more thing to note real quick while this is moving forward. You notice how I'm slightly below this block here. You need to be slightly below this or the first block as well. When you get this set up, that is the #1 priority for setting up the distances and stuff. So you're going to have to set the maximum distance of the up and down pistons, basically to where these are slightly below this block here, which is basically your top block you're printing off. Now this is going to print this stuff up here off too, so I'm not too worried about that due to the fact that it prints one block above it. But that's the way you're going to want to set it up. So whatever your top block is, you're going to want to go down to one block below like this and then print off those top 2 layers basically simultaneously the first run, and then you're going to want to be slightly below this area here. The reason why is that way this doesn't block off any of these blocks right there that you're trying to print. Otherwise it's not going to print quite right. Alright, so after a couple hours I was able to get everything printed off, so I'm just basically broke it off. It had plenty of time to charge the batteries because of all the nuclear reactors we had. So let me cut off the creative mode here so I don't have to worry about that anymore, and we're gonna head over to the other side over here and try to figure out a place to dock in with the base, just so we can start filling it up with fuel and everything like that. Good thing is we had a full battery charge, which should last us about 2 more hours. And I just need to dock it up real quick. I think we're going to dock it over here by the hangar bay that we've got. I'll probably just run it off the top of the hangar bay down to the bottom and dock that way. That's probably the best way to do it. And once we get it filled up with fuel and everything, we should be good to go and fly over to the moon for the first time. Alright, so I managed to run some conveyors basically up the side here and around here. It's not the most elegant solution, but it's not too big of a deal. Now all I need to do is connect here and make sure I go get all the fuel and stuff that I need. I might have enough ice already to fill up the hydrogen tanks in here, which means that we'll be able to create some oxygen and all that fun stuff. We should have enough fuel for the reactors, and then we're gonna have to worry about bringing some components over and stuff, and probably have to build a small little miner for when we get to the moon. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on all of this mess. First thing we need to do is dock it up, so let's go ahead and dock. That's one of the bad things about having such a large ship, is sometimes it's really hard to line things up quite right, but once you get within magnetic docking range, it'll go ahead and dock for you, so that's cool. We'll go ahead, hop out of here real quick and just make sure that this is all gonna load up here. Look to see if our reactors are filling. We'll put about 1,000 in here and we'll let that spread through, so we'll just go for like 200, because we do plan on picking up some more uranium and stuff soon. Basically just making sure all of our reactors are fed. In fact, let's see, they're not feeding because they're not needed at the moment, because we still have a full charge here. So I think once we take off, that should spread throughout. So those will be good, and let's see, yeah, we've got it in 3 of them already, so we should be good on that. We've had time to charge up all of our jump drives. Now we just need to go convert one of our miners over. I think I'm gonna see if any of the stuff that we have already will fit in there. And if so, that would be awesome. I think this might be big enough for the miner that we already have, which we'll just carry that with us. I need to work on the sensors as well for these doors because they're not quite working, and I'll have to do that in order to get the miner in there. I think it's small enough to fit, so we should be good on that. Okay, so I think I've got this a decent size here to where it'll trigger decently, and I am almost certain now that this is the right size. So let's go ahead and back it on in. Oh yeah, this will fit nicely. Now I'm gonna have to change this extent slightly or else it'll stay open, which is not what we're looking for. And I'm gonna have to make one minor adjustment here. This is because of the way that these back thrusters are, I'm gonna actually have to move this out, so be right back. Okay, so we're gonna try this again and see if it works. I think it's just the right size to fit in here. So we'll have to actually move it up, possibly rearrange the move. Let's see, that would be the down extent. I need to move to 0. And we'll probably just we'll have to add in a button in here to take care of those. So let me see which one. Okay, so I just put a button to open the hangar doors here. So let's try this out. And it should close once we exit the sensor there. Which, this is going to be a little bit strange when I just need to go straight up and until I'm out of the sensor range. And yeah, they close just right. Now we can use this, since we've got a full base built up in here, we can actually use this to mine everything that we need to where we're going. And this should be all that we absolutely have to carry with us, is just this one miner. Now one thing I need to do here is I need to run outside and check on what connector this is. It'll be the only one that's locked if I am correct, or one of the two that are locked. Okay, I found it. It's this one right here, I believe. So I'm gonna name this connector bottom, and that would be the right one. And then this one needs to be named connector bottom. Oh, that's this. Okay, so it's this top connector right here, and this one would be bottom left. That way I can disconnect from the base here whenever I need to, pretty easily. And I'll just add that to the bar in the ship. That way I don't accidentally disconnect the ship that is docked with this. Okay, I added those two connectors down on the bar here. So now to disconnect, all I need to do is swap the lock and it'll disconnect. And then boom. We still have the ship inside connected. Let me cut this off so I can't see the sensor field range anymore. And we should be pretty good to go now. I think we've got everything. Let me check the hydrogen tanks here. Just 7.5% filled. We can pick up some ice along the way. That's not a problem. And I think we should be good. Let's go ahead and add the jump drive to our bar here. Now the thing is, I'm not exactly sure how far away the moon is here and which direction it is at the moment, but basically we're just going to find the moon and we're going to jump towards the moon. We're going to jump not completely, I think it's about something like that, I'm not 100% sure, so we're going to jump about 200 kilometers towards the moon, and then we are going to see where we're at and keep jumping towards the moon. We don't have a valid GPS for the moon yet, so we're going to have to create one. In order to do that, we're going to have to kind of blind jump towards the moon a little bit. So let's see. I don't see the moon at all, so it must be on the other side of the planet here. So what I'm going to do to get there is I'm just going to cut off the inertial dampeners and just fly around the planet. So I cut off the inertial dampeners. We're going to get up to speed, and then if you caught yesterday's Empyrean video, that guy Saren that I was talking about, that's such a good builder, just logged into it. So he's still playing it. That's awesome. Okay, we've got some. Oh, Yeah, we're gonna have, okay, so I need to cut on the inertial dampeners here, hop out, and go take care of something real quick. I do have the inertial dampeners on this ship that's here, and it's trying to fight our movement. That's what I see smoking on the side. There we go, that'll stop smoking. So we're gonna come back in here and continue on in the direction that we were going. Now I'm not gonna go full speed here because this doesn't handle very well, and I don't want to accidentally run into something here. As you see, we're going to be pretty close to this asteroid right here, so we're going to have to adjust accordingly to get around it. So as of now, until I find the moon, I'm basically just going to have to glide on through like this and then point towards the moon when we find it, and then I'll jump. I think we can jump right past the moon with what we have set up here, so I'm going to have to pay close attention to it and not over jump. Like I said, we're going to go about 200 kilometers. I could just jump around the planet here, but that would take way longer actually, because you'd have to recharge your jump drives every time, and that would be a pain. So I'm not going to do it that way. Now, one thing to think about here is when you get to the moon, it does have gravity, so be careful with that. It's not high gravity, it's actually quite low gravity, but it still has gravity nonetheless. So I don't recommend trying to land your big ship there to start with. I would try the miner in the beginning, just to make sure that you can land and see how the gravity is. Either that or just save your game before you go in, one of the two. Okay, so we made it past that asteroid, and I'll be able to maneuver out of the way as long as I'm paying attention to where I'm going. So I just went on and sped all the way up, and we're just gonna basically, as we see asteroids up ahead, we're just gonna move away from them just like this. We're gonna thrust kind of to the side of them, so that just changes our vector, so we're not heading straight towards it. But as long as you're paying attention, you should be able to move out of the way pretty easily. Just do it as soon as you see it. The number one thing here is, as we're going around the planet, definitely pay very close attention to make sure that you don't hit the planetary gravity, because these engines are not really suited. Okay, I just did a blind jump for a couple kilometers just to get to where the moon was, and I now see the moon, so we're gonna head on over that way now. Now, I'm not sure if that's gonna go through the planetary gravity field or not, so all I need to do now is wait for the jump drives to recharge, and once they're recharged, I can jump directly to the moon. Okay, so it says it can't be used to jump into a natural direction slightly. Okay, so that's gonna let us do it. Apparently that doesn't take too long to recharge if you do it that way. And we're closer, and hopefully out where we won't be jumping into a gravity field to get there. Just basically jumping around the planet here. We're gonna have to secure some uranium pretty shortly, I think, because we're gonna start using it up quite a bit. I'm just jumping, let's see, what was I jumping? Yeah, 56 kilometers at a time, so not anything serious. I think this is probably the best way to do it if you've got a few jump drives here, because they'll charge up pretty quickly, and then you can get the exact distance that you need. Alright, we're getting really close here. I think we're pretty much beside it, so we're gonna do some small jumps here just to see if we can get back or get to the moon. I'm gonna jump straight at the moon. It won't let us jump into the moon. Okay, so it's gonna be less than 50 kilometers. We might as well just start flying towards it then. That won't take too long to fly. And I'm gonna aim slightly off of it, just so we don't go careening into it too quickly. That way we can go at full. Okay, we just loaded into the moon area here. So the first thing I want to do when we get to the moon is find a good asteroid to basically make a little bit of a base at. We're going to use the moon as well, but to start with, we're going to probably want to set up a base outside of the moon in order to get everything that we need to move down to the moon safely and build a base in there. So this episode, the rest of this one will be us finding an asteroid and basically mapping a little bit of an area like we did with the asteroid belt that was around the Earth over there, and trying to get all that set up to where we can safely go. We're going to have to worry about getting magnesium ASAP though, because we are going to run into space pirates out here. They are all over the place in the moon. As you see, we've got the beacon over here, and I was about 10 kilometers outside, or 10 kilometers away from another one just a few seconds ago, so we're gonna have to start worrying about that. I just need to make sure we get, but we're gonna start leveling it out here, so we're facing the ship down to the moon. I know we're pretty close because I got a pretty decent lag spike, and it looked like it was loading in the actual moon there. Yeah, so we're about 16 kilometers away from one, and they're gonna be all over the defending. So that means we're going to have to find some magnesium out here as soon as we can. Now, when it comes to ice, there's all the ice you could ever want on the moon. As you see, there's all that blue stuff right there on the moon. That's all ice. So we don't have to worry about fuel or anything like that when we get there. We'll just have to make sure. In fact, I'm going to basically aim towards the ice cap there. That way we come in on the ice cap when we do drop down. And hopefully we can find some asteroids pretty close to it. Looks like there's gold right below us too. I see a small little discoloration. I'm not too worried about that though. We can do all of that when we get there. Okay, we've got a lot of beacons around us. That's pretty cool. These are all little places that we can go and do like quests and stuff like that. We'll probably get into that, hopefully. That's something I haven't really messed with, so I'll be learning along with you guys. We seem to be in a pretty good spot here, so I'm going to start slowing down and think about heading down towards the moon. I think what I'm gonna do is very slowly lower myself. I'm not sure how far away the asteroids would be, or if there even are asteroids out here. I'm pretty sure there are, but I'm not 100% certain. So we're gonna just basically lower ourselves down onto the moon slowly, so we don't get overrun by the gravity, just in case we don't have enough thrust to get out. I'm just going to pay very close attention to that as I go. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make a GPS marker here for the moon. That way I can always jump back whenever I want to. So we're just basically going to cut off our dampeners here and just slowly start descending toward. And then as soon as we get into gravity, we'll start paying attention to the rate of acceleration that we have, and if we can fight it or not. I think we may have enough thrust to deal with it, but I'm still not 100% certain. So okay, we're in gravity now, so let's start slowing down and see if, okay, we can still slow down. This is good. I'm just basically, as we get in gravity and start speeding up, I'm just going to continue to thrust, or to slow our descent, just to make sure that we're able to. We're able to slow down pretty easily in this point. And as soon as it starts getting harder and harder to slow down, I'll basically just pay attention, and if it gets where it looks like it's too hard to slow down, then we'll just abort and go up once we finally slow. Alright, so it looks like we're going to be good to land. We're about 587 meters out, and we're at a full hover, and our thrusters aren't going crazy yet, so I'm just going to slowly descend here. Give myself plenty of time to slow down. And we're going to land inside of one of these craters here, I think. Would probably be the best bet. So we're going to move forward just a little bit. Yeah, we're looking for about 0.3 gravity, I believe. I think we may have enough thrust to survive it. We're getting pretty close as it is. As you see, these thrusters are doing alright. They're not completely going nuts on us when we slow down. Alright, so it looks like we're going to be able to land here. I'm basically just going to come down to a actual resting place here. And then we're going to take out the miner and go see if we can. magnesium, because we've got a base about 9 kilometers away, and that would probably be a good thing for the next couple episodes as well, is to take out the pirate base. Ooh, that was close. I'm slowly gonna touch down here. Don't cause any damage. I'm just tapping the thruster to go down until we come to a complete stop there, and now we can cut the thrust. Yeah, we're safely landed here, and now we can head on out and just see what's going on over here. And if we need to, we can grab our little guy that we brought with us and go mining. Alright, so I'm just gonna fly around just a minute. Let me grab my drill just in case we happen to come up on any ore anywhere. I'm not gonna get too close to that beacon though, because and start sending things our way. Okay, we're gonna slide on up to this beacon up here, and I'll show you this guy real quick before we end the episode. These guys right here, these are safe zones, so you can't get hurt when you're inside of these bubbles, and you can do a lot of trading and stuff. So if there's anything you're short or whatever, this is a good place to go. You can actually, there's a whole monetary system that they've got in the game at the moment, and this is where you do all the trading and all that fun stuff. So we'll definitely dedicate an entire episode to that. In fact, that'll be the next episode. We'll just take a quick little gander at it before we end here. Alright, we have entered the safe zone. Inside of the safe zone, you can't destroy anything. Nothing can be destroyed, not even you. You can smack directly into these buildings. See? Grinding disabled in safe zone. And let me just make sure it's still the same. I'm going to quick save my game here. That way I don't screw up. And I'm just going to go flying directly into the platform here. See? Nothing happened. You can even crash your ship directly into these things, and it will not do anything to your ship or to the beacon, which is really, really cool. Alright, so let me land here, and so we can take a trip through here. As you see, it's completely pressurized, so you can take off your helmet while you're inside. And these guys right here are what we're going to deal with in the next episode. So I'm just going to show you around here real quick. It's an entire little base that you can pretty much live in if you really wanted to. I'm pretty certain. They've got pretty much everything that you need except for, well, they don't have everything that you need. Let me climb the stairs here. Speaking of which, I am so glad that they added functional stairs. That's nice. It works really good for your builds. But we're just gonna fly up here just to show you what's up. So you can't access any of this stuff. You can't really take it over. You could cheat it if you really wanted to, I'm sure. But I'm not going to in this. But through creative mode trickery, you could probably end up taking this over. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, there's a bunch of different rooms in here, a bunch of different items and stuff that you can interact with. It's got your standard decorative blocks and things like that. You can't really access anything in here. So it's just a nice little place to hide out if you need to. Like if you're playing multiplayer or whatever, people can't hurt you inside. See, they can't shoot or anything. They can't grind, they can't shoot, they can't weld, and they can't drill. So if you're in a multiplayer situation, this is a safe zone. If you need to come out and if you want to trade with someone, this is where you go. That way you're not worried about them killing you or anything like that. It's got its own gravity generator and everything. And it's even got places for you to dock outside if you want. And even a little time, or even a little clock here. So we're going to head back outside now and go back to the ship, and I'm going to go ahead and call this one here. In between episodes, I'll go ahead and take care of some mining. I'll go get what we need mining wise. And the next episode, we will cover the missions and stuff out of here. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. If you haven't already, please join. Also, if you're new here, think about subscribing and click that bell notification to know when the new video goes live. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, click one of the 2 videos on your screen now. Thank you. Have a nice day.